Of course, where many of the people that I talked about who run to fortune tellers and psychics and read books about your life's purpose and your divine plan, they are not willing to do that work. They want to stay where they're comfortable. Well, as we have said before, comfortability and the spiritual path are not really compatible, and certainly also this planet is not really compatible with being comfortable. So you need to make that shift where you say, who am I? Am I an Ascended Master student? Am I a person who is determined to make the maximum progress in this lifetime? Well, if I am, then I don't need to be comfortable. It is not a matter of being comfortable. I'm not saying to torture yourself, but it is a matter of realizing that there's a certain element in your psychology where you want to stay where you're comfortable, you want to run away from what makes you uncomfortable. But it is only by identifying that and going right into it, being willing to go into the situation and experience the reaction you have. It is only then that you will be able to see the hang-up in your psychology, because you can't see it intellectually from a distance. You need to go into it and experience it, and then you can use the tools we have given you to overcome it, to identify the self, to separate yourself from it, and to let it die. This is how the process of growth works. It is a teaching that for some will be discouraging, because they have, perhaps for many years on the spiritual path, been holding on to this ideal that is projected out there in the collective consciousness that spiritual progress is just an entirely easy, positive, uplifting process. My beloved, this particular idea that the spiritual path does not require work, does not require groveling with your own psychology, is of course projected out there by the fallen beings in order to keep people trapped at this level where they are always looking outside themselves and they are never really looking in the mirror, looking at their own psychology. And you, of course, are beyond this, or you would not have responded to this teaching. And so I'm simply making you aware that you can consciously make a shift, because you realize that regardless of what the fallen beings project at you, regardless of what other people project at you, you're never wrong for shifting your consciousness. You're never wrong for shifting your consciousness upwards. And when you fully accept that, when you fully experience the reality of that, then you can actually enter a new phase of your interaction with the Ascended Masters, where we become your frame of reference instead of the fallen beings or other people being your frame of reference, or even the selves, the separate selves, the internal spirits being your frame of reference. You can begin to realize, as I said last night, that we are not frustrated, we are not angry, we're not impatient, we're not looking to condemn you or criticize you. I know very well, my beloved, that there are Ascended Master students in the world, and there have been Ascended Master organizations that had a collective culture where the teachings of the Ascended Masters were actually used to reinforce the sense of how you could be wrong and how you could be right. There have been Ascended Master dictation organizations where people have been so concerned about dressing the right way, talking the right way, walking the right way, looking the right way, thinking the right way, feeling the right way, and condemning each other and themselves for not being right according to some outer standard. But that was what we had to work with at the time. And in some cases, as we have said, we actually had to magnify people's beliefs so they became so extreme that people were finally willing to question it. And my beloved, who have the teaching you have, you can very quickly step beyond all of this and realize that we are the ascended masters, the real ascended masters, are beyond duality. We do not judge you based on a standard of right and wrong. We do not criticize, we do not condemn you. We have total acceptance of you, each one of you. We accept you unconditionally for who you are, and we only have one desire, is to help you become more of who you are by shifting your identity upwards. My beloved, I truly wish that you could look at yourself with the same unconditional acceptance with which I look at you. And I know that if you apply the tools that we have given you, you can come to that point. I know you cannot come to that point by me telling you, and I'm not telling you in order to make you feel bad that you cannot accept yourself, my beloved. You can see how the ego can take any teaching and make you feel, Mother Mary says I should be accepting myself unconditionally, but I can't, so I must be wrong. And these are the kind of loops that you can come to identify, where you realize that this is simply a separate self. And as the messenger expressed last night, there's a part of the mind that is programmed to create problems and predict that you have to solve them. Well, there's also a part of the mind, a separate self, that is programmed to predict that you are wrong and to use any idea that comes to you to turn this around and show, yeah, here's another way in which you're wrong. You're not living up to your highest potential. You're not good enough. But my beloved, you're all good enough. You're all right where you should be, because you are at the point on your path where you're ready to take the next step up. And that is what we are concerned with. There is no standard we are comparing you to. Do not even begin to believe that we say that until you are at the 144th level of consciousness, you are wrong. My beloved, you are on the path. That's what really matters. That you continue to take one step at a time and shift upwards. We accept that you are who you are, that you are at your current level, and we wish that you can accept that as well. Because, my beloved, there actually comes a point, I said last night, where you cannot go high on the path unless you overcome the linear mind. But there also comes a point when you can't go high on the path until you overcome the critical mind. That's always criticizing yourself. And so, there's a concept in the world of constructive criticism. But my beloved, as long as people are in a dualistic state of consciousness, there's no such thing as constructive criticism. Because criticism is a vibration. And it doesn't matter how right the person is in what they're pointing out. If it's still done with that level of consciousness, it's not constructive. And it's the same thing with you yourself. You may think that you have to be critical of yourself because that's how you grow. But my beloved, there is a self that has a dualistic vibration of criticism. And that self cannot take you higher on the path. And there comes a point where you need to step back and see that this is just a self. It's not a matter of whether the self is right or not in what it is pointing out. It is a matter of identifying that the vibration of the self is not love-based. It is fear-based. And therefore, you need to separate from that self, look at it and say, I don't need you anymore. You don't need to go into some judgment. You don't even need to go into a justification, as some of you are prone to do, of saying, yeah, but this served a purpose, it helped me go on a path. Maybe it did, but my beloved, what you need to do is identify it and say, I don't need this self anymore, and I am letting it die. And so, my beloved, this was what I wanted to give you for now, and I thank you again for your presence, for your awareness, and we of course look forward to giving you more teachings as you have a little chance to implement some of the ideas we have given you and to shift your consciousness to the next level up where you can receive the next teaching.